Hi brewers, let's talk about delabeling. This is the process of removing the labels from the bottle. Now, if you're like me, you get your bottles from a variety of places. You don't just go to your local brew shop and buy them. What that means is that you have to go through this process and figure out some way of removing whatever label that the manufacturer put on them. Now, when identifying labels, there's three basic types. There's the labels that have been printed on glass, there's plastic coated labels, which feel really smooth to the touch, and then there's paper labels. So let's go into those three items first and kind of look over what each one is and what its strengths and weaknesses are. First, printed on glass labels. These are really pretty, very ornamental. Downside is they're nearly impossible to remove from everything that I've found. The upside of printed on glass labels is that, once again, they look really pretty. Plastic coated labels, you kind of get a benefit from a manufacturer standpoint of they're fairly sturdy, they stay on, and they're relatively inexpensive, and they look very traditional. These you can generally identify by they feel very smooth to touch, almost waxy. Downside is they're still a little bit hard to get off, but with a little bit of work and the right solution, which we'll go into a little bit later, you can get those off fairly simply. The final type is paper labels. I love these personally. They, from a manufacturer standpoint, they still provide a very traditional look, but you get the actual nice, solid, easy to remove label, and you don't have to have a very extensive solution to remove them. So let's now dive into solutions. There are four basic solutions that I want to go over with you today. Now, before we go into any solutions, I want to cover one very important topic, and that's your breathing. Whenever you are delabeling, I recommend highly wearing a respirator. You can get these at any home improvement store. We got ours at a place called Harbor Freight here locally. I believe they're a national chain. So the first item that I want to go over with you is a solution of mineral spirits and simple green. This is fairly effective, I found, for paper labels and some plastic labels. Now, so you're effectively soaking the bottles in an alcohol and degreaser solution. That allows the labels to come off easy, and the mineral spirits dissolve the glue underneath. Now, unfortunately, you don't get a whole lot of penetration into plastic labels, and once again, your printed on glass labels, keep dreaming. The second one, which is what I found to be the most effective, is probably also the most caustic to your lungs, and that's an ammonia water solution. So it's 64 ounces of ammonia to 10 gallons of water. Basically, you fill a tub of that up, throw in your bottles, wait about an hour, come back, and almost every label scrapes off. That includes some of the printed on glass labels, which is why it's so effective. FYI, the solution for the mineral spirits and simple green is 1 cup mineral spirits, 1 cup simple green to 5 gallons of water. Forgot to mention that. But no, the ammonia mixture is very good. I personally can't use it because I'm allergic to ammonia. The next topic that I want to go over with you is one that I've found recently and that has been very effective with some labels, and that is 1 scoop of OxyClean, 1 large scoop of OxyClean, into 5 gallons of hot water. This, right now, I actually have a batch sitting and taking the labels off. It seems to be very effective, fairly quick. I'm guessing still about 1 hour, and I'll have some plastic labels and some most of the paper labels off. It does, I have discovered, leave some glue residue, which I still have to remove using, say, rubbing alcohol. The final solution, which is not really a solutions, but is a technique, I'm not a fan of because it definitely runs the highest risk, and that is a heat gun. Now, the concept of a heat gun is that you're going to heat up the glue underneath the bottle or underneath the label, and then that should just peel off. Downside of this is that you are working with heat and whatever solvent or whatever glue they used underneath. So if by applying heat that becomes toxic, once again, you're going to need a respirator. If you overheat the bottle, you run the risk of shattering it. There's a lot of things here that make it very unsafe if you're not incredibly careful and know exactly what you're doing. So out of all of them, my personal favorite is the OxyClean, or strangely enough, the ammonia, even though I can't use it. The final topic that I want to go over with you is scrapers. Now, there are 3 types of scrapers out there that you would want to look into. The first one is hard plastic scrapers. These are great for initial label removal. You can get these at most cooking stores. They look like little squares of just hard plastic. You can just go through, quickly take off most of the label and a good portion of the glue. They're great for that. The second scraper is steel wool. Now, there's a great plus side to this, which is it really does an amazing job against glue. The downside is, well, most steel wool is treated with some sort of chemical, so you have to be incredibly careful. If you are doing an ammonia bath and you're using steel wool that's treated with ammonia, it will cause a toxic gas. So be incredibly careful when choosing your steel wool to make sure that it's either an untreated steel wool or that it won't have any chemical side effects that you need to be aware of. The third type, and this is one that I personally use a lot of, is hard brushes. So these are great for removing your glue. Generally I use either a brass or a steel brush. These look very similar to what you would use to remove the debris on your grill, except they're a lot smaller. You can get them, once again, at most hardware stores. Basically, you just have the bottle in the hot water, take it, scrub it, and most of the time the glue comes right off. Well, I hope this has been incredibly informative to you folks out there listening, and we'll reach you again as more brews come along.